Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, we are doing acrylic pour today, and this was actually my first time doing acrylic pour ever. It was a lot of fun, but also a huge mess. So you can see here I was doing it on a wooden piece of a frame. It was supposed to be like a craft frame, but I decided to use it as a canvas. And this is actually one of my favorite pieces from the batch that we made. And I just used two different colors, as you can see, and tried my best to make it swirl together. So I used a spoon to just mix up the colors a bit and then let it drip. The main issue I've had about acrylic pouring is how much acrylic pouring medium you need to use in order to make it work. I know throughout this whole thing we actually don't use enough at all because we didn't have that much. Because I didn't expect to be using half of the bottle for a single color that's like very, very tiny. But you know, it was my first time and I definitely learned a lot. And I will know what to do in the future because goddamn, that took ages to make it drip. And then when it dried, it had those, when acrylic paint dries with like little balls and drips. I think if it was more runny, it wouldn't stay like that and it wouldn't harden. It would just drip down and just drip onto whatever was underneath. Here you can see me pouring on a globe. And my friend who was doing this with me was doing some work in his bathroom, and he took down this light because it's a cover of a light and replaced it with something else, but he still wanted to use it. And we just poured paint on it and wanted to see what would happen. I think if our acrylic pour was a bit more runny, it would probably look a little nicer. But I'm actually really happy with the result. So we just used three colors here. The main reason we didn't do a different color palette or anything like that is because we already had those colors mixed and we didn't have that much acrylic pouring. You can see that the colors are kind of dripping together, and this whole globe has this kind of a drip effect, which was nice, but I wish we had covered all of it. I just didn't want to use up quite that much paint. I learned that acrylic pouring really needs a lot of resources, so I'm guessing that's why not a lot of people do it, because it turns out to be quite expensive in the end, even though I used quite cheap paints. Maybe if your paints were naturally a little bit more runny, you wouldn't have to use as much as acrylic medium. But you know, these were kind of cheap paints that I just had lying around, and I wasn't going to paint with them because they're just not that great quality. So I decided to use them all for this. I think I got the paints in like 3 or 4 years ago for just something. So they've been just in my drawer ever since, and I finally used some of them. We didn't actually need that much paint because you need it to be really runny, so you end up using a lot more pouring medium. This blue was, I think, the most runny one in the end, but it was still not as runny as we would have hoped. Yeah, it's all about that acrylic pouring medium. And we didn't actually try that many techniques. We just decided to let it all drip down to the side of the canvas, and for the color to naturally mix together to create some patterns. We also used some silver paint. It's not the best quality paint, but I actually really enjoy the result because it's quite thin and you can see the other colors underneath it. So I tried to drip the silver paint on top of other colors so it wouldn't just be the white of the canvas underneath it. And yeah, here I am blopping down some silver. The silver was actually way too thick, but you know, it worked. So yeah, all the supplies for this I got in Dublin in one of the really, really lovely art stores that I found that are like in an alleyway that you probably wouldn't notice if you weren't looking for it. You can order online. I don't know if they deliver outside of Ireland, but they actually have really good prices. So I will drop down a link to their store below. Like if you live in Ireland, I would definitely recommend them. Shipping, I think it's not that expensive, but you save a lot on the supplies, so it kind of evens out in the end. And they have a lot of stuff that I haven't seen in most of the other art stores. Honestly, there's not that many art stores in Dublin itself, in my opinion, or if there are, they're absolutely hiding from me because I haven't been able to find a lot of the stuff that I actually have to buy online. But yeah, here I am using some tiny, tiny canvases, and those canvases are from Sostens Green. I am probably butchering that name. It's, I believe, Nordic store. I'll plop down the name of it on the screen now so you can see. They have a lot of like house supplies and look arts and crafts and stationaries and stuff like that. And they have these tiny, tiny canvases that I sell some. I paint on some of them and sell them online and in person. But I just had a few lying around, so we decided to use the paint on them and do some acrylic pouring because we didn't have that much paint. Those tiny canvases were actually really good to use. And some of the other canvases are a little bit bigger, and we used square ones. All of these were like really cheap just because I was scared to use anything more expensive than that. But I would definitely recommend trying out acrylic pour on something that you don't care about as much. I can't imagine trying to do this on a massive canvas and you know the amount of acrylic pour that you would need and the price of the canvas and stuff like that. As much as that kind of a painting would look absolutely incredible, I don't think I would have the nerve to try something out like that straight away. I still don't think I would try to create that kind of painting right now after having this experience because yeah, it's a little hard. I thought acrylic pouring would be like just you know you just plop down some paint and make a mess, but it's a little more difficult than I thought. And people who are doing it on YouTube make it seem so easy. It's actually crazy. Like it is not as easy. And also the the added difficulty of me knowing absolutely nothing about it. Obviously, I did some research beforehand. I knew what kind of supplies to buy. I bought gesso to go underneath it. I don't usually paint with acrylics much, so I actually never used gesso before. And we also sealed them in, and you know I tried to be as prepared as I can, and I watched a few videos, and I still didn't exactly get it right, but the results are okay, and I have them in my room, and they look kind of nice, so I'm not bad about it. It's actually kind of a blessing that we had a very limited color palette because we didn't want to use that many colors, and because they actually look really nice all together as a set because we only have blue, green, light blue, silver, and red as color scheme. So they all kind of look very lovely together, and they are kind of like a set. Although I have parted with some of them at the moment. One of them my mother keeps in her living room because she has a living room that has a lot of turquoise accents in it. So she decided that one of the paintings really suits her turquoise color scheme. So it's just standing beside a plant now. But yeah, you can see that we use these disposable cups, so we didn't have to clean them out. They are actually from the hospital, and you get your pills in them. So and they usually go to the bin afterwards. So we decided to reuse them a little bit in that sense. But yeah, you can see my hair going into paint, and I had some red paint in my hair for the next week, even though I washed my hair about 3 times. And I tried to rip it out of my hair, and I tried to brush it out, and it just wouldn't come out. So don't be a fool like me and actually clip all your hair up on your head, and don't lean down quite so far to your canvas. I don't know why I was doing that. Yeah, you can see that here I use mostly red and silver paint. So the silver in the finished product is actually sitting on top of the red, and it's opaque for most part, but then it feathers out, and you can see some of the red underneath it, and I think it looks really cool. But yeah, drip paint was everywhere. Paint was, yeah. I had to clean my floor after this, even though we had like this safe space on my desk. And you know, if you think you are prepared for this, with the amount you have covered of the area that you have covered in, like, I don't know, newspapers or cardboard, think again and add more, because my desk is permanently blue in one spot, and then I had to really scrub my floor in one place because the paint went between the floorboards, and I had to scoop it out of there, and it was already absolutely dry, so that was a bit of hell. So enjoy watching the rest of me making a mess, and I will talk to you once we see the final results of when the canvases are actually dry. So here's the exact spot that I managed to dip my hair into the red paint. Hope you enjoyed that. So here we have the final results, and this is my favorite, absolute favorite. This one is the one on the wood, and you can really see how the wood grains kind of have interfered with the color, and I absolutely love it. So here's some less nice one. I don't know, it's still interesting, but it didn't quite swirl as nice. And this one is absolutely amazing. I don't know how I managed to get all that silver swirled together quite nicely, but I love it. Here's another one of those. Yeah, here again, it's really nice swirling of the paint. This one is maybe a little bit less successful. I think the tiny canvases are a little bit harder to manage. Here's the one that I was talking about earlier, where you can really see the red underneath the silver. And last but not least, we have the orb, and the orb is looking great. It looks a lot better when you actually have light inside of it, but we didn't. It was still a little bit wet when I was filming it, and my friend was coming back home, so he took it with him. But it, you can probably imagine like a blue aura coming out of it when you have light inside. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!